The Zelda timeline was always planned. Fans have always been suspicious that the developers hid a master timeline from day one, like they were playing four-dimensional chess while the rest of us tried to remember which Link had a talking boat. But here's the thing, Nintendo's been very clear that the early games were created without any formal timeline. The people making these games were just vibing, building stories independently, and not sitting around charting multi-universe family trees. The whole official timeline that got dropped in Hyrule Historia back in 2011, that was made after the fact, kind of like when someone tries to explain their weird dream and pretends it all made sense. Series director Eiji Aonuma and others have openly said the connections came later, not from some grand master plan. Still, fans noticed repeating themes, reused locations, and thought, aha, hidden genius. But no, what looked like a Galaxy Brain plot was really just creative recycling. That said, I totally get why people believe it. The Zelda universe is filled with patterns that almost feel like they were mapped out decades in advance, even if the truth is closer to happy coincidence meets smart retroactive editing. Link is reincarnated because of the curse of Demise. At the end of Skyward Sword, Demise doesn't just go down swinging, he throws out a curse like he's the final boss and the plot device. He says his hatred will plague those tied to the goddess and hero, which fans took as the moment the reincarnation loop got hardwired into the Zelda universe. And yeah, Link and Zelda keep popping up like magical deja vu in game after game, so it tracks. But no game actually says Demise's curse is the only reason this cycle keeps going. It's more like the curse is the spiritual glue holding everything loosely together while Hyrule keeps getting itself into chaos. The lore summaries reference it, but they also leave it vague, like Nintendo just nodded at the idea and moved on. Still, the theory sticks because the curse is in the text, and it perfectly lines up with what happens across the franchise. It's dark, poetic, and makes the eternal battle feel more like a tragic loop than just sequel logic. I like how it adds a little extra doom to the hero's fate. Like Link isn't just chosen, he's stuck. Courtesy of one very salty ancient demon. Majora's Mask represents the 5 stages of grief. This theory's got just enough eerie logic to feel right, even if Nintendo's never confirmed a thing. The game drops you into a world where everyone's panicking, coping, or pretending everything's fine, while a creepy moon does its best death drop. Each major region can be lined up with one of the 5 stages. Clocktown's full of denial as everyone ignores the literal apocalypse. Woodfall oozes anger from a poisoned swamp. Snowhead plays out bargaining through a ghost needing closure. Great Bay spirals into depression as a dying Zora passes his legacy. And Akana Canyon sits in full acceptance with its obsession over death and legacy. Nothing in the game says this is intentional, but the structure fits weirdly well. Majora's Mask is already loaded with themes of loss and time running out, so this layered reading adds emotional weight to what already feels like Zelda's strangest fever dream. Whether or not it was planned, it's one of those fan theories that just works too well to ignore, like someone accidentally building a perfect metaphor while trying to make a game about masks and moon-induced nightmares. Termina is a construct of Link's mind. Let's face it, Termina is weird, even for Zelda. Everyone looks suspiciously familiar, like they wandered out of Ocarina of Time cosplay auditions, but their names, roles, and personalities are all scrambled. The theory here is that Termina isn't real at all. It's a dream world, or worse, some mental construct from inside Link's head. Fans point to reused character models and surreal events as evidence, and Majora's Mask. 3D developers did say the model recycling was just production convenience, but the vibe, it's dreamlike. Events don't follow strict logic, tone shifts like mood lighting, and characters seem pulled from memories or alternate versions of familiar people. There's no in-game confirmation that Termina is imaginary, but the structure's so fragmented it gives the theory legs. Add in the eerie music, the whole 3-day time loop, and Link's expressionless silence, and it all starts to feel like some metaphysical therapy session gone wild. Maybe Termina's a test, maybe it's grief processing, or maybe Link really just passed out and started lucid dreaming with bonus masks. Link is dead in Majora's Mask. The intro is sketchy. Link's chasing a creepy mask thief, his horse gets jacked, and then he falls into a seemingly bottomless pit. Next thing you know, he's in Termina, where time resets endlessly, the moon's trying to kill everyone, and the land's packed with ghosts, regrets, and existential weirdness. No one outright says he died, but the whole place feels off. like a purgatory dressed in Zelda cosplay. Nintendo's never backed this theory, but the evidence is heavy on symbolism. Termina's soaked in themes of mortality, and that moon might as well be a metaphor wearing a creepy face. Plus, the transformation masks come from actual dead characters, which is not subtle. It's no wonder fans think Link might be navigating some version of the afterlife. The game doesn't break the illusion either. It keeps that shadowy, dreamlike vibe all the way to the bittersweet end. Whether or not Link's technically dead, the theory fits because the game plays like a symbolic deep dive into loss, identity, and final goodbyes. Honestly, for a follow-up to Ocarina, it went straight into the Twilight Zone and didn't look back. The Interloper faction in Twilight Princess is related to the Sheikah. The Interlopers show up in a creepy, shadowy backstory, wielding forbidden magic and trying to nab the Triforce before getting banished to the Twilight Realm. They're mysterious, unnamed, and full of ominous vibes. Meanwhile, the Sheikah have always been tied to shadowy stuff too. Stealth, hidden knowledge, eye symbols all over everything. And in Twilight Princess, the Shadow Temple and Arbiter's grounds are plastered with iconography that screams Sheikah. So naturally, fans connected the dots and assumed the Interlopers were some rogue Sheikah offshoot who went full dark mode. Nintendo, of course, never confirmed this, not even a wink. But the overlap is wild. Both groups deal in ancient magic, both operate in secrecy, and both seem to get the short end of the sacred stick. The Sheikah tech ban in later games even adds to the pattern of mistrust. Honestly, I love how this theory makes Hyrule's history feel deeper and messier, like the royal family's been covering up an ancient civil war with a fresh coat of Triforce paint and a smile. The Happy Mask Salesman has direct connection to Majora's tribe. The guy's terrifying, right? One second he's grinning like he runs a balloon stand, the next he's all dead-eyed and threatening. He just knows too much. He talks about Majora's mask like he studied it at Evil Harvard, but the tribe that created the mask? Never shown, never named, never explained. That gap is where this theory thrives. People think the Salesman's one of the last members of that lost tribe, or at least heavily connected. He says he's traveled far and wide studying masks, but his knowledge of Majora's mask is too specific, too personal, and somehow he's not fazed at all by the nightmare power it holds. No one else handles that thing without turning into a cautionary tale, but this guy just pops it in a bag like it's no big deal. Nintendo's never said he's part of the tribe, but they've also never given him a clear origin. That mystery makes the theory stick, and adds a whole new layer of creepy to the character. He's not just a weird guy, he might be something way older, and way more dangerous. The Fierce Deity mask represents an ancient god who opposed Majora. When Link slaps on the Fierce Deity mask, he basically turns into a boss fight himself. It's ridiculously powerful, exclusive to the final battle, and never really explained. The mask just shows up, and suddenly Kid Link's swinging a double helix sword like it's light work. The theory here is that this isn't just a power-up, it's a divine being, or at least a relic of one, that once went toe-to-toe with Majora. It makes sense. The name Fierce Deity isn't casual. It implies myth, reverence, and probably a few temple murals lost to time. The games never detail the mask's origin, and it doesn't appear anywhere else in the series. That absence is exactly what makes the theory fun. It fills the gap with a cosmic battle between gods that predates the current world. Giving Majora an equal, an opposite force, adds weight to the final showdown, and makes it feel less like Link found a cheat code and more like he unlocked ancient divine vengeance. The mask doesn't just change Link's form, it changes the tone of the fight entirely. Tingle is a Kokiri who aged due to leaving the forest. Tingle's a lot. He's got the fairy obsession, the green onesie, and the energy of a children's party magician who was told not to come back. But some fans think there's actually lore beneath the chaos. The theory goes that he's a Kokiri who left the forest, and that's why he aged into whatever adult-adjacent form he's in now. Kokiri, as established in Ocarina of Time, stay childlike as long as they remain in the forest. So if one left, boom, time hits like a truck. Tingle's got that same permanent kid energy, but it's awkwardly wrapped in an adult's body. He floats around with balloons, talks about fairies, and doesn't act his age because maybe he never really had one. Nintendo's never called him a Kokiri, but they haven't ruled it out either. His whole existence kind of feels like someone trying to reclaim childhood after being kicked out of it. Honestly, it makes him more tragic than annoying. Instead of just being that weird map guy, he becomes a symbol of what happens when magic and reality stop getting along. Ganondorf's repeated resurrections. are the result of forbidden ancient rituals. Ganondorf refuses to stay down. You can stab him, seal him, drown him. He just keeps coming back like an evil subscription service that no one canceled. One theory says this isn't just because of the Triforce of power, but because he used dark rituals to make himself immortal-ish. In Four Swords Adventures, he grabs the Trident of Power and does some dark magic nonsense that sounds suspiciously like soul binding. Ocarina of Time and Wind Waker both point to the Triforce as the reason he's hard to kill, but they never say resurrection rituals are involved. That's where the theory fills in the gap. The idea is that he locked himself into a cycle using forbidden spells that the games just never spell out. It explains why he doesn't reincarnate like Link or Zelda, he just reboots. Fans latched onto this because it fits his whole vibe. Brute force, manipulation, and a little necromancy to top it off. Even if it's not canon, it paints Ganondorf as someone who'd rather curse himself with eternal revenge than lose once and be done. Breath of the Wild takes place after the timeline convergence. Breath of the Wild is like the Zelda multiverse salad. It's got references to everything: Twilight Princess, Wind Waker, Ocarina of Time, and no one will say where exactly it fits. Nintendo didn't officially place it in any of the three timelines, and Aonuma even said the ambiguity was intentional. That opened the door for this theory. The timelines eventually converge, and Breath of the Wild happens after that merger. The game's lore feels like it's been collecting history from all corners of the franchise, like a scrapbook that got left out in a thunderstorm. Hyrule's ruins are stacked with mixed references, the Master Sword is still kicking, and the Divine Beasts seem like tech from some timeline mashup experiment. It's chaotic, but it works. The theory explains the weird timeline soup by saying everything eventually folds back together. Three timelines walk into a bar, and out comes a centuries-later world with just enough shared memory to be confusing. It's messy, but in a cool way. Like history survived, but nobody's quite sure what order anything happened in anymore. The Divine Beasts in Breath of the Wild are ancient remnants of the surface civilization in Skyward Sword. The Divine Beasts are towering mechanical titans crawling with Sheikah tech and mysterious energy, but nobody explains exactly where the concept came from. This theory connects them to the technologically advanced surface civilization seen in Skyward Sword, specifically the Lanayru region, where robots mine for timeshift stones, and everything runs on glowing power. The idea is that the Divine Beasts are either direct descendants of that tech, or inspired by lost knowledge passed down from that era. The Sheikah get all the credit in Breath of the Wild, but the similarities in design and functionality between the ancient robots and the beasts are hard to ignore. The timelines are far apart, and Nintendo hasn't connected the two, but the theory fits because the tech in Skyward Sword was already way ahead of its time. Breath of the Wild's ancient machines could easily be the result of rediscovered blueprints or sacred technology that survived underground. It gives the beasts more weight than just being dungeons with legs. They become relics of a forgotten legacy that predates the Kingdom of Hyrule itself, walking proof of a history nobody remembers but everyone's still living in. The Zonai are the origin of the Triforce symbolism. The Zonai are everywhere and nowhere at the same time. BOTW is full of their ruins, massive stone structures, jungle temples, and carvings with lots of triangles arranged just a little too closely to Triforce patterns. That visual overlap got people speculating that the Zonai either created or discovered the Triforce long before the rest of Hyrule caught up. The theory isn't backed by any confirmed lore, and the official timeline says the Triforce predates the Zonai, but the evidence is all over the environment. Their obsession with symbols, dragons, and power lines up suspiciously well with Hyrule's core mythos. It's possible they found ancient clues about the Triforce and built their culture around it, or maybe they were just ahead of their time in stone aesthetics. Either way, the connection feels deliberate, or at least accidentally perfect. The mystery around the Zonas is thick enough to hide a dozen theories, but this one sticks because it ties them to the ultimate power in Zelda's universe. They didn't just build cool ruins, they might have shaped the mythology before it had a name. The Blood Moon in Breath of the Wild is caused by Malice Cycle overflow. Every few in-game nights in Breath of the Wild, the sky turns red, monsters scream from beyond the grave, and all your hard-earned progress evaporates while Ganon laughs invisibly. The in-game explanation is that Ganon's power surges and revives the monsters, but fans took it further. This theory suggests the Blood Moon happens when Malice, the corrupt energy tied to Ganon, builds up to a critical limit and forces a system reset. It's not a timed event, it's a pressure release. There's no confirmed length to the cycle, and Nintendo keeps it vague, but players have tracked enough patterns to make the overflow idea plausible. The game uses it to justify respawning enemies, but the tone is serious enough to make it feel like more than just a mechanic. If Malice has a rhythm or build-up, then the Blood Moon becomes less random and more like a magical reactor venting steam before something worse happens. It transforms Ganon's influence into something that's not just evil, but systemic, creeping across the land, and pulsing through time like a curse the world can't hold back forever. Zant's powers originate from a prehistoric Twilight deity. Zant isn't your average villain, he's twitchy, dramatic, and wildly unstable, which makes his powers feel extra unnatural. Twilight Princess says he got his magic from Ganondorf, but his abilities look way different than anything Ganon typically throws around. That led to this theory. What if Zant didn't just get a power boost from Ganon, but tapped into something way older? An ancient deity the Twilight used to worship before they were banished? Nothing in the games names a Twilight god, but Zant's powers, floating platforms, reality warping attacks, and wild transformations don't really match Ganondorf's usual brute force style. Plus, Zant acts like someone who's been touched by something divine and broken by it. His boss fight feels more like a possession than a power-up. Fans latched onto this because it makes the Twilight more than just exiles with a grudge. It gives them a mythic past and a forgotten god who might still be watching. If true, Zant's downfall wasn't just madness, it was what happens when a mortal taps into something way too big and old for anyone to survive untouched. Hyrule's royal family secretly controls the Sheikah tech during Breath of the Wild. The Sheikah tech in Breath of the Wild is next level, guardians, shrines, towers, and the Sheikah slate. All feel like ancient sci-fi dropped into a fantasy world. The official lore says it was sealed away 10,000 years ago when the royal family got scared of how powerful it was. But this theory suggests they didn't destroy it. They just hid it and kept quiet. According to the story, the Sheikah split after the ban, with one side becoming the Iga. But the royal family still had access to key elements, including the Sheikah slate itself, which ends up in Link's hands like it was preloaded for his comeback tour. If the royals feared the tech, why reactivate it right on schedule when Calamity Ganon returns? The theory says they were never really afraid, they just wanted control. Nintendo never claims the royal family maintains secret access, but the sudden reactivation feels more coordinated than desperate. If true, this theory makes the royal family less innocent and more Machiavellian, managing ancient weapons like a kingdom-sized panic button they never intended to use until the apocalypse knocked twice.